Dr. Night Echoes. I was driving home for the weekend from Indiana University. It usually takes about 2 hours to get home, and I left Bloomington around 10 p.m. At exactly 10:53 p.m., I was on a rural stretch of the 2-lane highway I normally take when I noticed what appeared to be flashing lights behind me. I thought, great, I'm getting pulled over, so I turned onto the next country road, about a quarter mile from where I first noticed the lights. As the car came to a stop and I reached into the glove box to grab my registration and proof of insurance, the lights suddenly disappeared. No car drove past. This is where the story takes a strange turn. And I know it sounds like something straight out of a UFO movie. The electronics in my car started acting strangely. The radio began randomly changing stations. The volume went up and down on its own. The dome light and headlights flickered on and off. This was around 10:56 p.m. I started thinking my battery must be failing, or that there was a short somewhere in the electrical system. I leaned forward to pop the hood so I could check the battery. That's the last thing I remember doing. The next thing I knew, I opened my eyes and saw nothing but the night sky, filled with incredibly bright stars. It was cold. I remember thinking I had never seen stars that bright in my life. I sat up and looked around. There was nothing else. I was in the middle of a field, surrounded by corn stalks left over from the recent harvest. As I came to my senses, panic set in. Where was I? Why was I asleep in the middle of a field? Where was my car? I stood up and started walking toward distant headlights I could see from a road about half a mile away. When I reached the nearest intersection, I saw signs reading 350 north and 50 west. I realized I was about half a mile from my car, which was still parked just off the main road. I walked back toward the headlights. I'm not sure how long it took, but it couldn't have been more than 10 or 15 minutes. When I reached my car, all the lights were off. The battery was dead. That struck me as odd because I couldn't have been gone for very long. I checked my phone on the passenger seat. It was 2:17 a.m. More than 3 hours had passed since I turned off onto that side road. I sat there, completely dumbfounded, wondering what the hell had just happened. After about half an hour, I remembered the battery was dead and called AAA for a jump. It took about an hour for them to reach me since I was far from the nearest town. During that time, I sat in silence, running through every possible explanation in my head. To this day, I can't tell you what really happened that night. All I know is that I can't think of any plausible explanation for why I woke up more than half a mile away from my car in the middle of a cornfield over 3 hours after I had stopped. I've only shared this story with one other person, my uncle. I went out walking in the woods behind our place just before dusk. I didn't tell anyone I was going. That still doesn't feel like something I would do, but I did it anyway. I don't remember deciding to leave. I only remember being in the trees, following a path I'd walked dozens of times before. I didn't come home that night. The next thing I clearly remember is standing near the edge of the woods in the morning. I wasn't lying down. I wasn't injured. I was just standing there, staring ahead, like I had been placed there and forgotten. Someone found me and started talking. It took effort to understand what they were saying. My mouth felt heavy. My thoughts felt delayed, like they had to travel a long distance before reaching me. They kept asking where I'd been. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't want to, because I couldn't. Every time I tried, my chest tightened and my head filled with pressure. I could barely get words out. Later, when things quieted down, they asked again. I told them I didn't want to talk about it. That was true, but it wasn't the full reason. Parts of it feel blocked, like there's something there I'm not supposed to reach. I only said one thing. I said I was examined. That was all I could manage. A few days later, I noticed my foot. The skin on my right foot had changed color. A deep purple mark covered most of it, spreading in uneven lines. I know my body. I know it wasn't there before. Doctors couldn't explain it. They ruled out burns, infection, circulation problems. One of them suggested stress. I don't go into the woods anymore, not even during the day. Sometimes I stare at my foot late at night, tracing the edges of the discoloration, waiting for something to surface. Nothing ever does. But some mornings I wake up with the unmistakable feeling that I've just been put back. I stepped outside my cousin's wedding reception to get some air. The music was loud, the lights were too bright. I remember laughing at something no one else heard. After that, everything gets thin, like parts were erased and written over badly. There were two of them. That's the first clear thing. They stood too close and kept shining powerful light straight into my face. Not beams, more like handheld suns. Every time I tried to look away, one of them adjusted the angle so the light followed my eyes. They spoke English, but not quite right. Short sentences, wrong emphasis. They kept asking how much I had been drinking. Not in a joking way, in a careful way, like they were measuring something. One of them asked me to describe the liquid, what it did to my body, how often humans consumed it. I remember thinking that was strange, even then. I was missing my pants. I realized that suddenly and panicked. One of them kept telling me to put them back on, not to remove them, put them on. I kept saying I couldn't find them. I remember feeling embarrassed, like I was the one causing a problem. The other one sounded irritated. He kept saying something about not disturbing the other guests. He glanced past me, toward the building, like he was worried someone might notice. He also kept reaching for my champagne bottle. Every time I pulled it away, he clicked sharply, like I'd broken a rule. Their craft was close enough that I could see the surface wasn't smooth. It was lit with harsh red and blue lights that pulsed out of rhythm. They guided me inside without touching me. I just moved where they wanted, like my body already knew. They took me somewhere bigger, a holding area. That's the only way I can describe it. There were other people there, quiet, sitting or standing in odd positions, some crying, some staring straight ahead. No one spoke to each other. I don't remember leaving. I don't remember being returned. I woke up the next morning in my car, parked crooked behind the venue. My phone was dead. My head hurt in a way that felt deeper than a hangover. My pants were folded neatly on the passenger seat. The champagne bottle was gone. At family gatherings, people joke about how drunk I must have been that night. I laugh with them, but I don't drink champagne anymore. Every time I smell it, I feel like I'm being evaluated. One night a few years back, my friend and I were driving along a fairly deserted back road after dropping his girlfriend off. He decided to take the long way home. I started to zone out and noticed a blinking red light off in the distance. I remember thinking, I wonder when they built a cell phone tower all the way out here. Suddenly the light blinked and was dramatically closer than it had been moments before. My friend noticed it too and slowed to a stop in the road. The light blinked once more, and was suddenly directly in front of us, hovering overhead. It was so bright that it flooded the entire car in a deep scarlet glow. I leaned forward to look directly into the light. In that brief moment, a wave of negative emotion hit me. The closest way I can describe it is the feeling of being naked under a giant microscope. Like every part of me was being inspected. I looked away and told my friend to drive, but he barely responded. He seemed stuck in the same state. A moment later, he snapped out of it and started driving. After we'd gone a short distance, I noticed the red light wasn't fading. The inside of the car was still lit. I looked out the window and realized the light was following us. It stayed with us for about 1 to 2 miles. Then, without warning, the light veered left and dropped down into a patch of trees beside the road. My friend stopped the car again and stared at it. He said he was going to get out and look at it, speaking like he was in a trance. He opened the door. I grabbed his arm and told him if he stepped out, I would take the driver's seat and leave him. I told him we had to go. Now. He looked at me and seemed to come back. He slammed the gas. The tires spun as we sped away. The light stayed where it was. I've never looked at the night sky the same way since. The object appeared without warning while we were driving home from my aunt's place. It was a bright afternoon. The sky was clear. I was in the passenger seat, half listening to my mom talk, when something solid seemed to snap into place in the sky to our left. We both saw it at the same time. I know that because we both stopped talking. It was huge. That was the first thing that didn't make sense. It wasn't far away. It wasn't high up. It looked close enough to judge its size, and it was wrong for the space it occupied. Smooth, flat, round. Sunlight slid across it like it was polished metal. It wasn't moving fast. It wasn't moving slow. It was just there, keeping pace with us as we drove. Neither of us said anything. I remember thinking that if I spoke, it might disappear. My mom tightened her grip on the steering wheel. Her eyes never left it. We watched it for a few seconds, maybe longer. Time felt stretched in a way I can't explain. Then it didn't fly away. It didn't shoot off. It didn't fade. It simply wasn't there anymore. One moment it existed. The next, the sky was empty. I turned to my mom. She was still staring at the same spot, her mouth slightly open. She didn't ask me if I saw it. She didn't need to. Her face told me everything. We finished the drive in silence. The radio stayed off. When we finally talked about it, we went over every explanation we could think of. A plane, a helicopter, birds, a reflection. None of them fit. Not the shape, not the size, not the way it vanished like it had never occupied space at all. Years have passed and we still bring it up sometimes. Always quietly, always when no one else is around. We never argue about what it was. We argue about what it wasn't. There's comfort in that, I guess. People laugh when I tell this story. I don't blame them. I would probably laugh too if I hadn't been there. But sometimes, when I'm riding in a car on a clear afternoon, I catch myself scanning the sky without realizing it. Not looking for something to appear, looking for the exact place where something once existed and decided not to anymore. My mom tells a story about herself and her friend Lisa. When my mom and Lisa were teenagers, They were sitting on the roof of Lisa's house when they noticed a bright light in the sky. The next thing they knew, the light was gone. They thought they had only been on the roof for about 15 minutes. Nearly 3 hours had passed. My mom doesn't remember anything about what happened during that missing time. Lisa completely refused to talk about it. I don't know, just drop it. This went on for a long time. A few months later, my mom moved away and lost contact with Lisa for almost 10 years. When they finally reconnected, my mom immediately felt that something was wrong. Lisa seemed distant, dreamy, unusually calm. She looked happy in a way that didn't match anything around her. After they talked for a while, Lisa brought up the night on the roof. My mom admitted she still didn't remember anything about it. Lisa said she remembered everything. At first, she said the memories came back in fragments, confusing pieces she didn't want to face. Over time, more memories returned. Eventually, she remembered the entire incident and 3 other abductions that happened after. She said they paralyzed her. She said they examined her. Later, they stopped doing that. They began communicating with her. They didn't speak English, but she understood them anyway. They told her things about space, about Earth. Then they told her something worse. They predicted she would become pregnant in a specific year, that the child would be stillborn, that she would never be able to have children again. They told her it wasn't their fault. They said they tried to stop it. They failed. They also told her they had abducted my mother after the original incident. My mom says she has no memory of that. She only has recurring nightmares about being taken. She's almost sure they're just dreams. Lisa told my mom that every time she speaks with them, she understands the truth more. My mom asked what that meant. You'll know eventually. Lisa said that once she learned the truth, everything became wonderful. My mom has seen Lisa a few more times over the years. Lisa lives a normal life. She doesn't talk about it much anymore, like it already happened and doesn't need remembering.